Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Diz, a show that gives you everything you need to know to help make your Disney vacation as magical as can be in just about 20 minutes. I'm your host, Jeff Coviello. With me each week is Disney Master Sandy from Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services. Sandy, how you doing this week?
I am doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Are you tired?
I am tired. I just returned from property. It's like a little bit of a role reversal. We were running and gunning on a short stay for me. But it was a fun time to go because I knew we were going to do this show next, and it gave me a chance to kind of maybe see some things as they were beginning to wrap up. Tonight is one of our shows that we do every year, which is where we say hello to certain things and goodbye to others. It's an interesting retrospect, look back and look ahead. I'm excited for it. I hope you are too.
I am, and if it's okay with you, I'm going to give our listeners a little peek behind the curtain.
Sure.
This is not a scripted show that Jeff and I do. We do it on a very, very loose outline. I like to work in Excel. It usually has anywhere between 8 and 20 lines on it, and each line has about 4 words on it.
Yeah.
So, we're going to hit our key points, and then we do it all off the cuff so that it is authentic for you guys. Nobody wants to hear me read a script. You can do that on your own.
Yeah.
But it's one of my favorite shows to write the outline for, because I get so much joy out of the chance to go back and not pull one picture or one video that somebody's asking me about for social media, or that a client has an interest in one thing. I literally get to relive my year. And I have to say, I am darn lucky. I have among the greatest jobs in the world. And so reliving what my year has been is always awesome. Looking at my calendar ahead for the year, which is the second half of our show, always has some neat things. But I love to pull up last year's show notes of what was going to be coming, and then compare it to what I actually did, because it's always so much better to look at what I actually did. So if you haven't been on property in 2024, here's all the things you want to plan for. If you've traveled in 2024, whether you booked with me, with another travel agent, you did it yourself, you're a vacation club member, I hope when I talk about some of these things, they bring a smile to your face and they bring back great memories, because that's what we're all about.
Well, and the funny thing is too, when we look at the line by line notes that we have here, I'm thinking of all the shows that we did for all of these things too. So it's one of those things that it's almost like self-fulfilling, that you understand that you hit all these things all year long so that people were able to understand what they were. So I want to begin with last year. Let's talk about last year. What were the things that we saw last year that we talked about, maybe that we didn't talk about, but is worth mentioning right now?
So I'm going to bring up the C word that nobody wants to hear.
Okay.
But I think 2024 was one of the greatest years that we've had in a long time, because we weren't dealing with anything out of COVID anymore.
Yep.
We brought back things, everything. Thankfully, COVID, rear view mirror, thank you, don't ever come again, please. And everything was back on track, starting with the return of the dining plan.
Which was huge, which was a huge thing for a lot of people, yeah.
I know for some, when we first talk about it, it's a big number to swallow, no pun intended. But when we work through it, it's got such a great value to it. And beyond that, it's that ease of vacation. So I'm thrilled it came back. I'm thrilled it's staying. And thankful 2024 started with the dining plan. And right along in that note, talking specifically about Walt Disney World and food, we saw 1900 Pike Fair open. I will say, thank God they had the strawberry soup, or there might have been a little bit of a riot.
Total riot.
The strawberry soup saved them in that drastic character change that we saw both at breakfast and at dinner. It has the most unique assortment of characters anywhere on property. It goes against all the characters fitting in the right background that I'm trained on for our marketing techniques. But, I mean, who doesn't love to see Maribel or the new Bayou Tiana? So great to have 1900 Pike Fair back. And kind of the opposite end of the spectrum of let's talk buffets is Michelin star. And we saw Victoria and Albert get a Michelin star. So how amazing is that?
Well, and it goes to what you and I talk about all the time. It's not burgers and French fries only in Walt Disney World, right? You've got some of the best restaurants in the world that are on property. Michelin star proves it.
It's amazing. From there, we went to most recently a new hotel, that new Polynesian Tower that we talked about. Besides the fact that there are constantly upgrades going on property. So we've seen room renos and new themes and great new bedding across property in different hotels, and we constantly see those changes coming. Oddly enough, I have a hello and a goodbye with our next one.
Yes,
I don't know how
I
it
noticed
happened.
that. It doesn't happen often.
Intentionally happened, even though I'm sad about it. Dreams That Soar, the show in Disney Springs. I wish it was there all year long, but it was announced as a summer only thing. It came, it went, it soared. It was phenomenal.
Well, it tested very well, right? So it might be the type of thing that you see pop up in a different iteration going forward.
It's the second time we've seen a show at Disney Springs. Disney, if you're listening to me, don't make that big gap like you had last time. We had seen a drone show for the holidays almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was so well done. I was in awe of the design. Again, if you just don't take in what you're seeing, think about what went behind it. The orchestral music, the balance of the music to the light, to the formations. It was amazing. So come back. A new ride again. We hit some controversial in 2024.
We sure did. Some fan favorites being reimagined.
Tiana's Bayou opened in Walt Disney World. No More Song of the South. We've kind of brought in that new IP, and it hits with that. What does this younger generation understand? And I've talked before, I don't do change well. We can make some of the younger kids have appreciation for some of the older things, but they went for that new movie theme that brought us Tiana. Right in line with new movie themes, we finally saw the completion of Epcot. And it brought us the Encanto stage show, Celebration Encanto, which, as we speak, is in its very final week.
We actually got a chance to catch that as we were walking out the other day. So it was nice and cool little show.
The idea with that area of Epcot is it is going to become a festival area. So Festival of the Arts opens next week, and the artists that we used to see perform between those gift shops as you entered World Showcase are being moved to that stage, which will be nice if the temperature goes higher than it's predicted. It's going to be a nice warm 49 in Orlando next week.
They caught the 3 days of winter.
So I'm not sure how much I need that overhang for shade, but it'll be appreciated as we get into spring festivals.
One more retheming, though. We got one more retheming that you want to talk about.
The Country Bear Jamboree. And listen, I miss their blue costumes, but I absolutely love the new show. It was a perfect mix of old and new. It did not take away any characters. It brought in new music, and costumes that were 50 years old have been replaced. So if you have been to Walt Disney World in the last year and haven't seen it, or you're headed there this year and you say, my family doesn't do that one anymore, been there, done that, please go back. It is so
very
worth your
different.
time.
Very different, yeah.
And lastly, I was thrilled to see that they reimagined Jollywood Studios to really make it work to be a great evening experience. So if you're thinking about the holidays next November, December, definitely get Jollywood on your list.
Mm-hmm.
Our last kind of change that is a shared one between Walt Disney World and Disneyland with some little deviations is the dreaded, what are we going to do now? Was it Fast Pass? Was it Genie? It is now Single Pass, Multi-Pass, Premium Pass. That is that paid ride reservation system now.
So
The
simple.
great news about it, if you were a Disney person 6 years ago, you remember that pre-COVID, you got to make 3 FastPass reservations in advance. And it was nice to know you weren't having to get up at the crack of dawn every day. Notice the crack of dawn is 7 a.m.
Mhm.
Um,
To
but you
some
were
people.
kind of able to plan and know that you had those favorites set in stone. And so, while I don't love the fees behind them, which we've done so many shows on this now,
Yeah.
the fees are less than all of their competitors. And I love knowing that guaranteed magic of them.
So all of that is essentially some of that, as you just mentioned, was a shared thing between Disneyland, but most of that was the East Coast. So what about in Disneyland? What did we get to enjoy this year?
We saw two big changes there. And again, it's all about the IP and the theming. We saw Pixar Place come to
Hmm.
be. So Paradise Pier Hotel is no longer. It is replaced by Pixar Place, an absolutely incredible themed thing. And I will say, as Jeff mentioned earlier, one of the neat things as we go through this is everything that I'm talking about, we've covered in a show. So if you haven't been a listener for a long time, I'm going to ask where you've been, but I'm glad you're here now.
Yes.
Check out the show notes. I'll put all the links to these shows, or maybe you didn't miss, you skipped over a show or you didn't listen fully, but you're excited about it now. Go back and check these out, especially Pixar Place. I love what they did with that hotel. I'd like them to build it on the East Coast as well.
But it's not alone. Speaking of stuff they built on the East Coast, we get Tiana's Bayou also on the West Coast.
Also on the West Coast. So that was that dual coast theming, and they are 99% the same. So you can visit the bayou on either side of the world.
So we move away from the theme parks and we go to cruise line. What did we see this year in cruise line?
We saw so much. Again, so much for cruise line is a lot less than Walt Disney World, because we're going to say something like, we saw the Disney treasure, which sounds like one thing.
Right.
But again, we had multiple episodes on the new dining, that haunted mansion parlor bar. The ship is just gorgeous. So we did welcome that 6th ship into the fleet that is officially sailing now. And the biggest news for them, we've got a second island. So Castaway, obviously the original, and now Lighthouse Point. Because with so many ships, we don't want 2 ships on one island. We don't have space for all those people. So as many ships as possible make a call to the Disney Island, and that gives us that opportunity. There's also some really neat itineraries if you're kind of limited on the days that you can sail. Maybe you can't do all those 7 nights and 10 nights. You're looking more at 3, 4, and 5. We have some 4s and 5s that go to both islands and no place else. So talk about a winning itinerary.
Can't hate on that.
And the last thing they announced is more ships, and more ships to the more ships that they had already announced.
We got ships on ships. We got so many
We've got
ships.
ships on ships, and I am determined to bring you an episode from Palpenberg. Going to the shipbuilding yard has been on my bucket list, and I hope to find the right timing to get to that in 2025.
I hope you do too, because I know it's been something you've been talking about for a while.
Touched
So
on Palpenberg for years.
yeah, it's going to be exciting. But listen, as we say hello to certain things, in which we did, now we're at a point where we're going to start saying goodbye to some things. I got a chance to see some of these things kind of turning over in this last week that I was over there. Give us the rundown. It's not a very big list, but there are a couple that have been there for a long time.
We shared a big list of things in D23 that would be coming to you. And again, my little bit of hate on D23, they get me all excited. And then they're like, and that's coming 5 years from now. I'm not that patient. So there are some things getting minor makeovers, but we are going to see Dinosaur closing. It's actually in the process of closing as we speak. Dino Land as a whole is going to close and all get changed into a new land, but it's not all closing at the same time.
Right.
Tough to Be a Bug will be closing in just a few short months as they turn that over. And then Tom Sawyer Island.
We were walking around the Magic Kingdom just a couple of days ago and looking at Tom Sawyer Island and looking at the river and saying, "Oh man, it's going to be so strange to try to picture what this looks like once they do make that transition, because it's been so many years that's always been there. It's one of those things that's going to be really kind of jarring to look at and really take in. I'm sure they're going to do a wonderful job, but it's so iconic and it's so ingrained in my memory as to what it looks like. It's going to be a real interesting change.
Interesting you say that, because yes, it's obviously changing. But one of the things that I struggle when I try to see it in my head is, we know Disney is all about perspective and being where you are and not seeing into other things. And for instance, when you're in Tomorrowland, you can't see all of the other lands. They work well with landscaping and buildings and different things so that you're really present in where you are.
Right.
And Tom Sawyer Island is just kind of out there in the middle.
Right.
And when I think of, being out in Disneyland at Cars Land and how they hide this monster mountain, it is an amazing Imagineering feat. And so I have to assume they're going to pull off something similar here. But my brain, it's why I podcast. It's why I'm not an Imagineer, because I can't make it work.
Well, we are saying goodbye to Tom Sawyer Island to make it work. But, once we say goodbye to these things, this is really my favorite part of these types of shows, is we get to figure out what's coming, what's next, what in 2025 are we going to be introduced to that is going to make some new memories, things that, my kids can sit there and say, wow, I was there when that happened for the first time. So what are we looking to see that's coming to Walt Disney World first in 2025?
We're going to see a lot of great things, but I want to be upfront with you. I don't have a lot of specific dates.
Yes.
We're going to get them, but we're not going to get them with as much notice as I'd like. But again, think of any project you've done around your house, any little renovation where, you're redoing your bathroom and you fall 3 weeks behind. Imagine taking over something like Tom Sawyer Island and redoing it. It's just such a great projection line, but things happen. So the biggest thing that's coming in 2025 is here already. And it's our favorite word. It's a free thing.
Yeah.
All on-site resort guests at any Walt Disney World property, even if you don't have park tickets, you just have a room reservation, on your arrival day, you get free water park entry.
Which is a wonderful thing. On my last trip that we just came back from, difficult to do when it's in the 50s. But you have to play it by ear. Free is free. We didn't take advantage of it this time, but on your check-in day, head over to the water park, especially if you've never been before. Why not just spend a couple hours and see what it looks like?
They're talking about many of the next things that I'm going to talk about coming in the summer. And summer for Disney is somewhere typically in June or July. So it could be as early as the beginning of June. It could be as late as the last week in July. I've got 4 things I'm going to tell you, and I don't think they're all coming in the same week. I will tell you that, sadly.
Okay.
So the first one is Disney Villains Unfairly Ever After. That's going to be a new stage show that we're going to see in Hollywood Studios, in the theater that is currently the Frozen Sing-Along.
All right.
We are finally seeing the Little Mermaid Musical Adventure, that slightly new title. That stage show that's a combination of humans and puppetry and blacklight will be coming back into the theater.
It's been sitting there for a while, waiting to come back. Yeah.
The thing I am probably most excited about, well, that wouldn't be fair. One of the things, the most excited at Walt Disney World. How's that?
There you go.
Starlight Dream the Night Away. I guess I'm an ooh shiny things person.
Sure.
A nighttime parade coming to Walt Disney World. A brand new parade. Lots of old favorite characters led by Blue Fairy, but then it's going to have floats and all kinds of new characters like our friends at Encanto.
That's fun. One of the things that is coming back that my son actually looked at and was asking what it was for the first time because it's been under construction for a little while since he could be there is we're getting Test Track in a reimagined way.
It's about time. It
Yeah.
seems like it's been closed for a long time. Again, it's one of these things that the longer I do this, it really shows you when we talk about Walt saying the park will never be complete and that Disney is constantly doing and changing. When they announced that change, my first thought was, I was just at a reopening.
No, you were not. It felt that way.
They reopened that at the same time they brought on what we call New Fantasyland.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is also not new at all right
which
now.
is also not new for a long time anymore.
Right.
But it shows how much effort they put in the redoing of things. So that'll be exciting to have back.
So those are the summer, right? So obviously other times of the year, what should we be looking to expect?
We've got a winter thing coming, and my daughter is probably one of the few that if you ask her favorite Disney character, you're going to get a little bit of a not thought of option, but she is by far the biggest fan of Judy Hopps you will ever meet.
Love it.
So Zootopia Better Together. That is going in Animal Kingdom where Tough to Be a Bug was. That is a winter item. And winter 2025, I'd like to tell you it's all coming at the beginning of November. That's winter for me, but more likely we'll see it in December. But maybe if I say that, I'll be wrong. So let's hope it comes early.
Well, one thing is it's not now, which is also winter. You're talking 11 months out, 10 months out from where
Yes,
we are.
I had to ask for clarification multiple times. I kept saying to them, well, winter 2025 actually has 2 seasons, and they're as far apart in 2025 as you get.
Yeah.
I guess that's what happens when you're a Jersey girl, not a Floridian. They don't think of it as winter.
Indeed.
And we're getting 2 new lounges that I'm excited about. Inside of Spaceship Earth is going to be a new lounge, as well as a new Pirates of the Caribbean lounge over in Magic Kingdom, attached right to the attraction.
Very fun, very fun. All right, let's go over to the West Coast. What are we looking forward to in Disneyland?
So, Jeff, I'm going to have to fire you if you don't find your way to Disneyland, because I don't know how many more shows I can tell people how amazing it is, and you can still be on here and tell us that you haven't
It's
gone.
such a longer flight.
We are going to celebrate the 70th birthday of Disneyland.
Nice.
They're going to, they love a good theme and they keep it for way longer. I wish I could celebrate my birthday for, 16 months.
Sure.
But coming on May 16th, all the way through summer of 2026. So again, more than a year, we'll have the Disneyland birthday celebration, which we're going to see a lot of things, but 2 of the big ones, 2 new projection and light shows. One is going to be on Small World, so over in the Disneyland park, and then over in California Adventure, a new world of color featuring our friends from Inside Out. Again, as I said a minute ago, I love shiny things at night. So Paint the Night, the Disneyland nighttime parade is back. And if you haven't seen it, it is amazing. If you've got a Cars fan in your family, you've got to come see this. I'll put a link to our video that's up on YouTube because it is awesome.
Okay.
And I don't know how this is actually the first we're seeing of this, but the first ever Walt Disney animatronic is going to go out in Disneyland.
Yeah, I saw that. That's super exciting. Super, super exciting. Let's move over to Cruise Line. What are we looking forward to in Cruise Line?
Don't get too excited with this announcement because it's probably not going to apply to about 95% of our listeners.
Oh, that's so sad.
Bluey and Bingo will be on board the New Zealand and Australia cruises.
Interesting. Okay.
They are working to expand the Bluey franchise and bring it over to the U.S., but no word exactly when that's going to be.
All right.
The Disney Destiny is going to start sailing in November of 2025, 4 and 5 night sailings out of Fort Lauderdale. And my major excitement for the year, the Disney Adventure will be sailing 3 and 4 nights out of Singapore starting in December 2025. So you can safely assume that the end of the year will be very heavy cruise line with our shows.
What does that bring the fleet to right now?
As I said earlier, with the Treasure coming on, we had 6 sailing now as of today. At the end of 2025, we will have 8 sailing today. And there are 5 in build process right
Wow.
now, bringing us to 13 ships by 2031, which sounds like a forever away number,
It's
but
not. It's
it's
not.
6 years.
Yeah, it's not.
So in the next 6 years, we are going to see 7 new ships.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
So we've got you covered there.
Deep breath there. Deep. I'm sure we'll cover none of that. I'm sure.
And if the cruise ships are too big for you, I'm going to segue into our final hello of 2025, which is the first ever Adventures by Disney Tulip River cruise in Europe.
Ooh.
And I can't begin to tell you how amazing that is. I got to try out the Tulip cruise this year, not through Adventures by Disney, because obviously it isn't sailing yet, but I did go and test the itinerary for all of you.
That's so nice of you. I appreciate that.
Sometimes you have to take one for the team.
Well, you take one for the team often. It's one of your finest traits. Do you have anything you'd like to say to anybody before we say goodbye tonight?
I could talk about 26 and 27 and 28 because we've got a lot of news coming for those parks already, but I'm not going to. And what I'm going to say to you is don't wait. I know there's always going to be more things you want to see, and there's always going to be great things. And I'd like to tell you all that you should go every year, but I know that's not realistic. But, it's been an interesting year, both with friends and family of mine, with celebrities. Tomorrow's not promised. Go make memories, make them great, and go and do it again when the time is there. Don't wait.
Well said. Sandy, I appreciate you taking the time, giving us this look back and this look ahead. I hope your 2025 is very, very magical.
You as well. Happy New Year to all of our listeners.
And that's a wrap this week on Let's Talk Diz. If anyone you know could benefit from this or any show, please share, have them like and subscribe. And don't forget to reach out to the folks at Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services for any Disney destination planning. Make it a great week. And as always, keep making memories.